Okay, so let's see a little recap on functions. Global variables. Arrays and loops. Okay, so I'm just gonna have one input. One input, type text. I'm gonna name this name, ID, name, right? I don't know what I'm doing here. Type text, thank you. Name, ID, value, empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the list of all the students in this classroom. Print the list of all of you, right? So name, and then a button, add student. Then I'm going to have a division with ID my list. Okay, so basically I'm going to write each student, add. Once I'm done, I want to display all the students that I have. Very simple task. So let's see. I'm going to have another button then. Show list. Okay. So, just logically, what I have to do then is when I click on the button add student, I have to save this student. Save it. Right? So there is an action which is the click. On click, I save the student. So just the way that I'm saying it, I'm going to do it. On click, I'm going to save student. Right? Save student then will be a function. Therefore, opens and closes brackets. Save student. Then I have to create a function save student somewhere here. Function save student. Right? The second thing I'm gonna have to figure out, okay, is this function, does this function require a parameter? Do I need to put a parameter inside of this function? Do I need to put something in here, A or B? Well, I don't think this function needs one because the only thing this function is going to do is going to go look for an input document, get element by ID, and get the value and save it. So I don't need any parameter. Not for this case. I will have to think when I use, and I do not use parameters. In this case, I don't want a parameter. Right? So that's it. It's a very simple function. No parameters required. Then I'm going to have to save it. Right? So the first thing that we do when we want to save something just naturally when we are starting to code is like, okay, I'm going to create a variable, names. And I'm going to save inside names the value, right? Document get element by ID, and the ID was name. Right? That's great. The problem here is that when we create a variable inside a function, this is called a local variable. And the function will be created and deleted every time I call the function. I call the function, it will create the variable. Once the function finishes, it's going to delete it. So I will not be really saving my data. I will just be generating it once and delete it. So if I have another function, for example, in my button show list, okay, again, what do I want with show list? When I click on show list, on click, I want to show my list. So show list as a function. So I need to create this function in JavaScript. Okay. So now I say, okay, perfect, I have show list. So what I want to do is to put inside my element with ID my list. That's where I want to insert my student, the name of the student. So then the next natural thing to do would be something like document dot get element by ID, and the ID was my list, right? Dot, this is not a value, this is dot inner HTML. By the way, here I need to get the value, sorry. Dot inner HTML equals, so I'm going to insert the value that I got before, which is inside names. All right, that would be something natural to do, something kind of logical to do, right? But there is some problems here. The first problem is that the variable names is local, meaning it cannot be shared with other functions. First problem. Second problem, names is created every time, so I am not really adding names. I'm not adding many names to this variable. I am overriding the value all the time, right? And when I try to insert it, it's not going to insert because for the function show list, the variable name is not defined. Is nowhere to be found, only inside the function save student, and save student is not, it's never going to share his variables with other functions, right? So let's see. Let's try this first. So I'm gonna put here John add, then Eric add, I don't know, Peter add, show list. I got an error, and what that error says is names is not defined, right? I am trying to insert the variable names, which is not defined. If I make names global, then I can share it, right? Then I can declare it outside of my variable, of my function. That's when it becomes a global variable. Now I can share this variable with other functions. So let's see. Peter, John, Mike, show list. I only got Mike, right? Because every time I click on add student, what I am doing is saving inside names the last value. The last one that I added was Mike, right? It's not like I am adding new and new and new. When you want to do something like that, when you want to keep on adding, okay, that's when arrays comes to play. So now I can, in arrays are going to allow us to put many values inside. So I can make names equal a new array. And now as an array, I can keep on adding. So we know that names, as an array now, will have a position. The first time that I click on it is going to be position 0. Right? So if I want to show names, I will have to show that position. So Mike, add student. That's it. I saved inside my array at position 0 Mike. When I show it, it's showing in the position 0. But now, when I want to click again on add, it's not going to be position 0. It's going to be position 1. Now, I cannot be coming back and forth to my code to make these changes manually. It's impossible. I cannot come and say 0, 1, 2, 3. I can't. Impossible. Right? Therefore, we have a method which is push. And push is going to do that for us. The first time, we'll put in position 0. The next time, position 1. The next time, position 2, so on and so forth. And it will keep on adding. Push will keep on adding into names all the positions in order. So now I can have Mike, I can have John, I can have Peter, right? But now when I show the list, what I have in show list is position 0, which was the first one that I added, right? Again, I cannot come back to my code and do, okay, I'm gonna print inner HTML. I'm gonna concatenate here 3 of them, okay? 0, 1, and 2. Okay, perfect. That solved my problem for 3 elements, right? Now I can have 3 of them: Peter, Mike, and John, and this is gonna show the 3 of them. Great. But what if I have a 4th one or a 5th one? Or what if I only have 1? John. When I show, I get undefined, undefined. Let me add some breaks there. Right, John, and then the second position, well, position 1, or the second value is undefined. The third one is undefined because I only added 1, right? So I cannot manually say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I don't know how many I have in my array. And that's when loops come in place. A loop can automatically go through all the elements in the array, exactly the number of elements that I have, the number of values that I have in my array, and print them, right? So the way the loop works is by saying for I at position 0, I'm gonna start from position 0 all the way to the number of elements in my array, which is the name of the array, dot length, I++. Okay? Now, if I specify only position 0, what this is going to do is going to print the element at position 0, the number of times of the length of my array. For example, position 0, I'm going to have Mike. How many times I clicked? Mike. Then position 1, John. Position 2, Peter. Position 3, Sean. So I have 4 elements from 0 to 3. Right? So the length of my array is 4. So it's going to print 4 times, right? The length. It's going to print 4 times names at position 0. Therefore, I'm going to have 4 times Mike, which was the first element that I added. Error. Didn't close my function. Okay, I'll do it again very fast. So the first one was Mike, Peter, John, and Sean. So if I print this list, I'm going to see 4 times position 0. Not even. Okay, I am overwriting the value. If I want to keep on adding, I have to concatenate. So plus equal, right? Plus equal each name, and I'm going to also add a break. Okay, sorry. If I only have the equal, that's why I was only seeing 1, because I was just putting the last one. Plus equal would actually keep on adding to the inner HTML. So let's see. Again, Mike is the first one. Sean's the second one. John is the fourth. Peter is the fifth. Now what? Again. Okay. Sorry. Plus equal. Okay. Again. Mike position 0. Sean position 2. John position 3. And what am I missing? Peter. I don't know, maybe I did it already. Show. Finally, have Mike 4 times. Because I am printing position 0. Right? If I want to go through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or up to 3 in this case, I use I. I is the one who's starting at position 0, going all the way to position the length. So then in this case, now Mike, Sean, Peter, and John. Now I went through all of them, one by one. Okay? Now, let's say that I want to add not only their names, but I also want to have their age, or not, their student ID. Student ID. Right? So what a lot of people will think is that, okay, so then I have to add 2 names or something. I have to keep on adding all these values. Well, the good thing is that we can have as many variables as we want. We can have as many arrays as we want. So I can have another array for student IDs. Then I need to get this input, which is name, student ID, student ID. Right? So then I can push inside student ID, push the value of SID. Now, every time I click on Save Student, every time I click on the button and I call the function Save Student, names and SID are going to get new values. Therefore, they're going to grow at the same speed. They're going to have the same length, no matter what. Even if it's an empty value, it will be at position whatever, position 3 will be empty. So they will all grow at the same speed. Then inside my loop, I can use any, because they will have the same length. If I click on the button 3 times, names will have 3 values, SID will have 3 values. So they all have the same length. So I can loop and use the same length either from names, or I can change it for SID, for example. It doesn't matter. I can just add here. I'm going to add a space, for example. I'm going to add SID, or first SID, and then the names, right? At position I, obviously, they all are gonna go through the same position. And then I have John is student ID 100. Peter is student ID 120. Sean is student ID 45. And Mike is student ID 36. Right? Because I am printing here the session ID position 0, student ID position 0, name position 0, student ID position 1, name position 1, student ID position 2, name position 2, so on and so forth. And that's what's happening here. Right? Now in this case, I am using just HTML with some breaks. But what if I wanted to have a nice table? Then I will have to put here my table divisions with my table rows. Create those table divisions, table rows, and insert them inside the HTML. Now when you do that, I went through this before, but I'm going to explain it again. When you try to insert a table using a loop, okay, so here what's happening is that first I insert my table, then inside a loop I create all my table rows with each table division containing the student ID and the name, and then once the loop is done, I close my table and I insert that table. Closed. Okay. Yeah, so here the first time that I'm inserting, no, actually, this is okay for this example because I am concatenating inside the inner HTML. So whatever was in there, I'm going to keep on adding. I'm not initializing a variable. Okay? Now here I have to open table row, close table row. Okay. So now, when you do these kind of things, you will not understand why it's not working, and you're going to break your head for hours. Let's say Mike, add student. John, add student. Peter, add student, show list. Okay? Undefined, undefined, undefined. It's names. Okay, let me do it again. Add student, Peter, Mike 20. Sean 30. Okay. So is this supposed to be a table, right? But it's not showing a table at all. And if I look at the code with the debug with the bug, the Firebug, I will see a table opening and closing, and a bunch of values. I mean, all my values there, but without the table divisions are not there. The table rows are not there. So what happened is that browsers, they try to fix our code, right? If in my HTML I forgot to close this ID, for example, okay, I forgot to close the ID for my list, just forgot. It's still going to show. It's not going to just erase the whole page and tell me, sorry, there's an error, I'm not going to display anything. No, the browser is going to try to fix it for me. And actually, if you see here, the closing tag is there. Even if I didn't write it, the closing tag is there. That's because my browser fixed it for me. So what's happening is that every time I insert an element, the moment I insert the table, the minimum structure needs to have a table row and a table division, at least. If not, it's wrong. Then when I insert table, the browser is going to close it automatically. That's why it's not working. So what it did is that it's inserting a table and closing it right away. And then it's going to put table rows and table divisions outside a table. And you cannot have those outside a table. So it's just getting rid of them. So that's why we cannot see the code inside. So if you ever want to insert tables, you should use then a variable. My table. And that variable is the one that you're going to keep on adding values to it. Right? So that table will keep on growing, growing, growing. That variable, my table, will keep on getting formed, the table as it gets created. Once it's created, once it's closed, then you can insert the whole thing. And then here at this point, it will insert the whole table, one shot, not element by element, not tag by tag, table division, table row, no, everything together. So Sean, add student. Peter, 50, add student. Mike, 5, add student, show list. Now I have a table. Yeah. Let me add some borders to it. This is not supposed to be done like this, but just to have it done fast. Yeah. Now you have a table inserted in the HTML. Okay? So remember, when you are going to insert something into the HTML, the best practice, if it's going to be a long thing, is to save everything inside a variable. That you keep on concatenating the strings inside of it. You make a chain of strings. Keep on adding values to that string. Once the string is finished, then you insert the whole thing together. Also remember, when you are saving things and you want to share them, for example, SID names, they are being saved inside the function SaveStudent, and they are being displayed inside the function showList. Make sure those variables are global, so they can be shared between all the functions. Okay? And whenever you want to keep on adding many things to a single variable, use an array. An array will allow you to save a lot of values inside. Okay?